What is up, everybody? Hope everyone's having an awesome, highly successful, and productive day. This is episode 20 of the All About How podcast from growingau.com, where we are posting a podcast every single day for the next year. So stay tuned for that. We have a very, very value-packed episode for you today. So let's not waste any time. Just jump right on into the episode. This is All About How. Let's get into it.
It's all about how in 2020 we're going to leave the world a better place than we found it. And have a very highly successful day.
So first of all, day 20, that is insane. No longer a teen-digit podcast, 20 days strong. We've been going here on this podcast at Growing AU. This is incredible. Really cannot believe it's already been 20 days. Does not feel anywhere near that long sometimes. So really happy about it. Happy for everybody and thankful for everybody that has stuck around and listened day in and day out on this podcast. What are we talking about today? We are talking about teaching excellence. I'm going to do my best to keep this podcast a little bit shorter just for everyone's listening pleasure. So we're talking about teaching excellence. I posted a new blog today over on growingau.com. You can check that out. I will also link to it. If there's a links wherever it is you're listening to this podcast, there'll be a link to the blog talking about how an acting course changed my entrepreneurial life. And I talk about how an acting course I took in college gave me an entirely new perspective on success, on excellence, on hard work, on determination, and on completion. And all of those things have played an integral role, I think, in anybody's highly successful, high-performing life, whether that be in entrepreneurship or otherwise. And I'm talking about how the lessons I learned in that class can be applicable to the greater world as high-performing members of society. So that is a definitely super value-packed blog. Definitely recommend you go check that out over there. If you don't know, we're adding a new blog every Friday to growingau.com. So you have that to look forward to. Generally something, or basically a little bit more detailed description of possibly something we're talking about in the podcast, either that week or the week following. So really great way for you to stay up to date and maybe get a little bit more information on some of our hit topics that week. And we're going to be talking about this today, teaching excellence specifically. I talked and I made a short film a couple years ago now called The Entrepreneur in Me. And in that short film, there's a segment where I talk about what we can learn and how we can leverage our situations that we are currently in that we don't necessarily want to be in. An easy example of this is if we are in math class and we don't actually want to be in math class, we take a minute to figure out what is it that math class can teach us that will allow us to leverage that time more appropriately to fit our long-term goals or maybe even achieve our Death Star moments if we're going to use our word for it. So what I talked about there was we have to figure out what it is that we can get out of that math class, except for, of course, the numbers and everything else that they're teaching. Well, maybe it's called focus. Maybe it's focusing in full-heartedly on what it is you're doing in the moment, giving it your full attention, and going all out on making sure that you are excellent at it. Then taking that ability to be hyper-focused and applying it to things that happen and occur to you later on in life that are slightly more related or perhaps directly related to your end game endeavors and the path in which you're taking to achieve those goals. If we learn right now, we leverage this moment, all right, I'm going to be focused on being hyper-focused. I'm going to definitely take a lot of time to try and hone that skill of practice until excellence, and I'm going to use my math class to hone that skill. It's something that I can get out of that course immediately that's going to benefit me in the long run, even though maybe I'm not going into a field that's super math and numbers based. So it's something that I can get out of that is going to more directly apply to me and allows me to get double the use out of that time. So that comes into a little bit of teaching excellence here, is how there are different things throughout schooling, throughout education, throughout just general practices and experiences that we go through on a daily life that are going to help us hone our excellence. A very simple example for this for me, and this is actually a podcast we're going to be doing next week, is I placed 5th in the national trumpet competition earlier on in my days, and in middle school to be exact. And so in that competition, the preparation for that taught me so much when it comes to hard work and basically not giving in and knowing just how polished something can be. And I don't want to get into that much right now because we have a whole episode of that coming up next week. But when you talk about honing excellence, okay, I'm not going into music. I have nothing to do with, playing the trumpet anymore necessarily, but it was the skills, attributes, and characteristics that were honed during that period of time that were so influential and so really invaluable when it comes to everything else in life. Because when you're able to hone in that hard work that, for example, NTC, National Trumpet Competition, taught me, or perhaps the acting class reaffirmed and taught me, when you take those ideas of hard work, practice, dedication, and you take those and apply them to whatever it is that you're really passionate about, the results can honestly be catastrophic in a good way. And I think it's really something that we all can take into account, because I'm sure there's a lot of us in situations that we don't necessarily want to be in, situations that we don't necessarily care for, but nonetheless, we have to be there. So if we just take a little bit of time to figure out how we can positively benefit from these situations, it may ultimately allow us to glean more information, more value from that situation as a whole. And I think it could honestly help propel us in a positive direction when it comes to achieving our long-term goals. Just kind of looking for that bright side, that silver lining. What is it that I can get out of this? What necessary skill can the situation that I am in refine? And using that, being aware of that to propel us faster forward to our goals. I believe in it. It's happened to me now multiple times in my existence. We're going to be talking about those next week, but I just want to put this out here to think about a little bit and also promote that blog post, because that blog post is going to talk a lot about the different things that I experienced in that course that helped me entrepreneurially, that helped me just improve myself as a human being. It doesn't even have to be entrepreneurial. It just helped me improve as a high-performing member of society. So I would definitely recommend going to check out that blog over at growingau.com. It's how an acting course changed my life. Definitely recommended. Go ahead and check that out. Again, new blogs every Friday over at growingau.com, where we're using a little bit more research, citing a little bit more sources, and really expanding upon some of the key ideas that we talked about during the week. I'm really trying to formulate this podcast a little bit more. We're going to be hearing about that tomorrow, about how I'm going to really try and form this a little bit more into an educational class-like experience. A lot of the information I'll be pulling from experts in the fields. It's not necessarily just mine, but I want to do a lot of curation here on this podcast to make sure that we're getting as much value out of it as possible. I don't feel the need to drag this on anymore. I think the point is clear: to take the time to better evaluate our situations to find the most valuable outcomes that we can attain by leveraging those situations and experiences properly to better propel us faster toward our goals. I think that really makes sense. I'm going to give a little bit more examples in that NTC talk we have next week. I think there is always something more to learn from everything. I think everything can push us forward in the positive direction, can hone some necessary skill. Teaching excellence does not have to just come from the things that we are directly passionate about. We can find ways to improve through all activities. It may even just be the way not to do something, but that is still a net improvement. So definitely let us know what you think about that. Leave us a comment. Tell us your thoughts. If you liked it, if you agree with me, give us a follow, give us a share, give us a like, do what you got to do. Really highly appreciate it. It helps us a lot over here on the podcast, helps us move up, helps more people hear us, and helps us spread the growing AU message. So I really do appreciate it. I do want to go ahead and quickly give you a fact of the day, as we always do. This is the All About How Daily Fact. You can find all these on Instagram, by the way. Our page, our Growing AU page on Instagram, they're all on there. We have a picture to go with them. This one is from the funfactsite.com. Check them out for this one. But movie trailers, all that stuff we see at the beginning, were actually originally shown at the end of the film, hence the word trailer. But what happened is no one stuck around after the movie to watch the trailer, so they had to put them up at the beginning. I don't know. The more you know, man. Personally, I enjoy the trailers. I feel like that's half the fun of the movie sometimes. But the problem is I normally eat all of my snack during the trailers. It's modern problems, and they require modern solutions. What can I say? This has been day 20 of All About How from growingau.com. I was your host, John Knott. You can follow me on social media at JohnKnottAU. That's JohnKnottAU. You can follow the page on social media at GrowingAU. That's GrowingAU. And also we have growingau.com spelled the same way. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found some value in this episode. And we will talk to you tomorrow on day 21. Got it.